Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Francis Ben Kaifala, has granted bail to former Vice President Victor Bokarifo and former Mines Minister Minkailu Mansare after they were indicted for alleged 2017 Hajj scholarship corruption. The ACC Commissioner also told journalists that the Commission is on the process of reviewing the Hajj-Gate investigations and reopening of investigations into the Ebola funds. He said that the Commission will further look into the sale of shares at Sierra Rutile and that the 2015-2016 Auditor General's report will also be investigated. He made the disclosure during a press conference held at the Commission's conference room at Gloucester Street in Freetown. Francis Barnett has the rest of the story.
Corruption is not new to Sierra Leoneans, as they have observed politicians and connected persons break, weaken, spoil and ruin a system or institution. Corruption is now part of our social, cultural, political and economic structure and takes place when public officials develop power to grant concessions, divert public resources, issue illegal permits and many more. This meeting, according to Commissioner Francis Ben Kaifala, is an interactive session with the media as a way of updating them about issues surrounding corruption in the country. According to him, the Anti-Corruption Commission will review the investigation that is ongoing in the Hajj-Gate scandal. After going through the files, Ben Kaifala said the investigators noticed that some parts of the investigations were not completed by his predecessor before the indictment was made. He revealed that there is the possibility that many people will be indicted and charged after the reviewing process.
That there were various areas of the file that has not been completely investigated before the indictment was filed. There are various leads that have not been pursued. There are various aspects of the case which would expand the charges beyond 4 that have not been considered, or if they were considered, they may not have been looked at from the viewpoint that would make those charges to make it into the indictments. And there is the possibility that the investigation itself involves more people than what is presently in the indictment. Sealed indictment 1. An indictment was lodged and it involved the following persons. It was the state of Sierra Leone against Sheka Said Kamara, Victor Bokari Fo, and Abu Bakar Kil. They were charged on various counts, 4 of them involving misappropriation of public funds.
The commissioner also said that the ACC has uncovered a high level of corruption at the National Social Security and Insurance Trust (NASIT). According to him, 4 people are already in detention. The commissioner also told journalists that the commission is also investigating other corrupt issues that have to do with Sierra Rutile.
Similar to the Hajj-Gate, before the previous commissioner left, he filed an indictment which concerned investigations into Sierra Rutile. The indictment involves Alhaji Mohamed Bundu Mansare, Matthew Hurd, H-I-R-D, and Wayne Benter. We began immediately. I came in is an investigation into grand corruption at NASIT. It's a huge web. A lot of people, top management, are involved. Some are already in detention. We had arrested about 4 of them. 1 has been put on bail because he had been in prison for more than 7 days. The others are still in detention.
Commissioner Francis Ben Kaifala said the ACC will work with other institutions to make sure they succeed in the fight against corruption in the country. The ACC will thoroughly study the government transition reports and make possible indictments, he said. For SLBC News, Francis Barnard reporting.
Meanwhile, the long-awaited transition report that was released on Wednesday this week has been met with harsh criticism by some members of the public and those alleged to have been engaged in fiscal indiscipline. Many have raised eyebrows as to how the team arrived at such a conclusion without having a qualified audit firm to conduct an independent audit as to whether such misappropriation of public funds actually occurred. Recent among those that have damned the transition report in a release are the former President Ernest Bai Koroma and former APC Attorney General and Minister of Justice Joseph Fitzgerald Kamara. The former President Ernest Bai Koroma said in a press release that all the allegations of corruption and other negative practices levied against him in the transition report are untrue. The allegations, the release states, are maliciously contrived up to smear his image. According to the release from the former president, a legal team has been consulted to look into the governance transition team reports. Former Attorney General and Minister of Justice under the leadership of President Ernest Bai Koroma has also set the record straight in a press release that the said date of June 2014 he was not minister as alleged. He said that he has no point in time been part of an agreement for a project to transform several grounds into a shopping mall or a parking lot. In order to have all the parties named in the controversial transition report to help with the ongoing investigation, police has issued a release calling on all authorities concerned not to grant approval to any of the persons named in the report, but to direct them to seek permission from the office of the current Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Ever since the release of the transition team report, accusations and counter-accusations in press releases have been pouring in from State House and those named in the reports. The Minister of Information and Communications, Mohammed Swari, has briefed journalists about the President's 100 days in office and the transition team reports. The minister said that the transition team is not a witch hunt on the past APC government officials, but a means to show accountability and transparency. The press briefing was held at the Ministry's Conference Hall, U Building in Freetown. Joseph Stanley reports.
According to the Minister of Information and Communications, Mohammed Swari, the reason the country is facing serious economic challenges is because of the corrupt practices of the past government. He said that people need to be accountable for what they have done, which shows a working democracy. The minister was also assertive that the process is fair, just and transparent and in the best interest of the country. He boasted that the president has done well as he promised to declare his assets within 90 days, which the vice president has done too.
Many have described the report, well, not many. I've had a few loose, gaseous dismissals of the report as witch hunt. Well, this is the sad state of our country. Many people now see things through jaundiced lenses, through variegated lenses, forgetting that the common denominator we all have is Sierra Leone. His Excellency, on the day of his swearing-in ceremony, did say he was president for the whole of Sierra Leone. At the inauguration, he re-echoed that. This is a Sierra Leone we all have, the only one we all have. We have committed to running it for the benefit of all Sierra Leoneans.
The Director of Disaster Management, Office of National Security, John Rogers, made a presentation on the preparedness of governments on disaster risk management. He highlighted some of the reasons for disaster in the country, which include unplanned urbanization, illegal dumping sites, excess sand mining, deforestation, and many more. The director expressed concern about the slow response of people to adhere to early warning signs as we are now in the raining season. He called on authorities concerned to work together to mitigate the rate of disaster in the country.
This is being backed up by relevant ministry, department, and agencies we have been meeting. And one critical part about it all, which is very important for us to understand clearly, is not only for us to send early warning, but equally so for people to be able to respond to that early warning, which refers to as the early response. For example, if we are going to have volume of water falling, we are going to have an increase in the level of water by a number of centimeters, we must be in position to tell the community that we have now studied clearly that indeed that particular area is bound to be flooded. I can tell you that we are up to this particular season and we can address it effectively as we are looking at it.
The Director of Foreign Exchange at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Edmond Cisse, said as a ministry they are concerned about the increase in the prices of basic commodities. He stated that some business people are taking advantage of the situation and warned them to desist from such practices or they face the full force of the law.
That report was filed in by Joseph Tui and read in the studios by Daphne Kimamacaulay. The President, Julius Maada has commissioned the Infectious Disease Prevention and Control Center, Sierra Leone, at the 34 Military Hospital, Wilberforce. The Infectious Disease Prevention and Control Center, Sierra Leone, was the outcome of a protocol signed in January 2017 by the Ministry of National Defense of the People's Republic of China and the Ministry of Defense of Sierra Leone. Hawa Barry reports.
It was on the 18th of March 2014 that Guinean health officials announced the outbreak of a mysterious hemorrhagic fever, Ebola. It spread into Sierra Leone by May 2014 and claimed the lives of hundreds of Sierra Leoneans, including health personnel. At the time the virus was discovered in Sierra Leone, the health sector was handicapped to handle the magnitude of such an outbreak. That was the first time the West African region had an Ebola outbreak. At first, samples had to be taken all the way to Kainlaon in the east of the country in a Lassa fever lab for testing. It took weeks before support from international organizations like WHO and other countries came in with their support. This new Infectious Disease Prevention and Control Center, Sierra Leone, was born out of a protocol signed in January 2017 by the Ministry of National Defense of the People's Republic of China and the Ministry of Defense of Sierra Leone. The thrust of the protocol was to legitimize and operationalize the government of China's delivery of military aid to Sierra Leone. President Bio said the center is as a result of the agreement which the government made in January 2017. As you may recall, the armed forces played a pivotal role during the outbreak of Ebola in Sierra Leone. Most prominent specialists died, including Dr. Sheikh Umar Khan, the only virologist in Sierra Leone then. The president said the scars of the disease will continue to live with Sierra Leoneans, but recalled the role the Republic of China played in the fight against Ebola.
We can still recall the role played by the government of the People's Republic of China when the clarion call for assistance was made by the World Health Organization following the declaration of the Ebola virus disease as a national public health emergency. Certainly, today marks another milestone in the fraternal relationship between the government and the people of the People's Republic of China and the government of the people of Sierra Leone. Accordingly, an improved service delivery of our joint medical units is an improvement in the overall health sector in the country, especially when one puts into perspective the fact that our exists to serve the nation.
The president said on the 15th to 18th of May, the Joint Medical Unit Sierra Leone Armed Forces conducted an assimilation exercise that geared towards testing the RSLAF-trained medical unit preparedness in addressing Ebola or any other outbreak. The Chinese ambassador thanked the president for gracing the occasion, emphasizing the president's role in the bilateral military exchange between Sierra Leone and China.
Over the years, our two armies have been collaborating closely and achieving tangible results in wide-range areas, focusing on the international peacekeeping tasks and the human resources capacity building. A large number of loyal Sierra Leone Armed Forces officers get trained every year through various programs organized in China, and they all, after study, return to Sierra Leone, contributing to the nation's defense of the country.
Major General David Taluva said they appreciate the Chinese government's support to the RSLAF. He said the two forces have been enjoying strong bilateral ties for mutual benefit.
Infectious diseases are growing concern for us as a nation. But with the establishment of this center and the continued help from the Chinese government, we know that we have a bright future for the coming generation.
Professor Fodesa, the Surgeon General for the 34 Military Hospital, said this is another significant milestone in the friendship between Sierra Leone and China. He said after the Ebola scourge, the RSLAF received a number of trainings from the Chinese government.
After the Ebola scourge, the RSLAF benefited from a number of training opportunities, especially in the field of public health from the People's Republic of China. All of these trainings have contributed in making RSLAF more prepared for any future health emergency. 24 JMU staff just returned from the 302 Military Hospital in Beijing, China, in preparation for the opening of this center, as JMU personnel will be working alongside with their Chinese counterparts. The BSL-3 laboratory capacity that has been established at the 34 Military Hospital here will pre-position the 34 Military Hospital in a very good position to readily diagnose infectious diseases and respond readily and further strengthen the country's health system.
Major Dr. Stephen Sevely is the commanding officer of the Joint Medical Unit. He assured the President that the center is equipped to handle any infectious disease outbreak in the country. He says this is a big development in the Republic of Sierra Leone.
The lab capacity we have now can be able to make diagnosis of Ebola virus disease. So I think that is a wonderful step forward. And besides, we also have a rapid deployable isolation and treatment facility. Not long ago, a few weeks back, we conducted a field exercise in which we were just maintaining a state of readiness in response to the outbreak in Congo, such that in case there is any eventuality, we are in good position to respond. So with this additional capacity now, adding to what we already have, I think we are in a very good position to respond to any outbreak.
After the signing ceremony, the President was taken on a conducted tour of the center.
The Sierra Leone Motor Drivers General Transport Union has appealed to President Bio to be part of the insurance of driving licenses to citizens. The union also asked him for the reduction of heavy tax levied on them at the toll road. The meeting took place at the State House in Freetown.
President of the Motor Drivers and General Transport Union, Alpha Amaduba, made the appeal to President Bio for their union to be part of the issuance of driving license and to decentralize it as well, so that people will go through the normal procedure and obtain their license easily. Mr. Amaduba informed President Bio that the union can boast of over 70,000 drivers, but that they are faced with a lot of challenges in their profession. He said the union has been working hard to make sure that all drivers go through the dual process to qualify as drivers. The Motor Drivers Union president praised that the toll road has reduced accidents drastically, but appealed for the reduction of the heavy tax on truck drivers. Mr. Ba briefed President that drivers are complaining about the excess tax that they are asked to pay. President Bio promised the Motor Drivers and General Transport Union to engage the ministries and agencies responsible to look into some of the concerns raised, especially in the area of the issuance of license to drivers. This, he says, if they are part of it, they can monitor the process better, as most drivers plying the roads of this country have no business on the road. He informed them that recent statistics shows that there are more vehicle accidents than aeroplane. For the Hajj scholarship, he will make sure that the Office of the Vice President addresses it equally so that those in dire need will be awarded. In another engagement, the Furabe community also commended President Bio for achievements made so far in office. The head of the delegation, Professor Babatunde Karim, said his pronouncement during the elections to be the president of all Sierra Leoneans will never be forgotten. Professor Karim highlighted that the Furabe community is surrounded with so many factories, but that the community does not benefit much from the corporate social responsibilities. He called on the president to provide them with good road network, as most of the cars are now plying the routes in their community due to the traffic congestion in that part of the city. He also called on the president not to forget this year's Hajj scholarship and job opportunities, as there are a lot of Islamic scholars in the Furabe community. President Julius Maada Bio told them that he owes a lot to the Furabe community, as they contributed to his election as president of Sierra Leone. The community, he added, is recognized for the so many significant roles it has been playing in governance. The president assured the delegation to engage the key players to look into the corporate social responsibility of the companies to make them benefit from it. He said the Hajj committee, headed by the vice president, will provide their own allocation. They pledged their continuous support to the Beyond New Direction administration to succeed. SABC TV News are in Freetown. Hawa Mosiri reporting.
Christian Health Association of Sierra Leone and the Ecumenical Pharmaceuticals Network of Kenya have trained more than 20 health workers from all over the country. The training is to bring to speed faith-based health systems for them to compete with other health service providers, especially in antenatal care. Soiba Samura reports.
Sierra Leone has one of the world's highest estimated maternal and mortality rates at 1,165 deaths and 100,000 live births. Christian Association of Sierra Leone, in collaboration with the Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Network of Kenya, has trained some health workers in maternal and child health care. The objective of the training is to facilitate the ability of faith-based health systems to offer competitive pharmaceutical services for maternal and childbirth in Sierra Leone. Participants were schooled in the areas of adherence in the medicine use process and maternal health. The Sierra Leone demographic survey shows that most of these maternal deaths can be prevented if adequate care is available. Program Manager, Christian Health Association of Sierra Leone, Gloria Bayo, told SLBC that the relationship between them and the Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Network of Kenya will yield dividends. She affirmed that Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Network has requested the Christian Health Association of Sierra Leone to carry out a survey on health facilities and availability of drugs countrywide in order to ascertain what sort of medical aid is needed.
CHASL is a health-based organization, and one of the major work we do at CHASL is to facilitate drug use for our member facilities. And we even do some clearing for our member facilities. We solicit for drugs for our member facilities. So we were able to identify EPN, which is a major drug distribution organization, and that was how we started the partnership. And recently, they asked Christian Health Association Sierra Leone to help them with some survey, a baseline survey on maternal health care. So that is how we came in contact with them, and we have been working.
And so before now, Eugene Conte, pharmacist and consultant, highlighted that with all the commitments by previous government's Agenda for Prosperity and the Free Healthcare Initiative, much impact on maternal and childbirth healthcare services was not realized. He added that there were, however, gains made on malaria bed net utilization, diarrhea management, and improvement in addressing malnutrition. Program Officer, Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Network Kenya, Collins Jaguga, said the training can contribute to the maternal health care and childbirth service systems of Sierra Leone. He said there will be some positive outcomes from the training, as this would help health workers understand what to do whenever they are faced with maternal and childbirth problems.
So the goal of this project is to strengthen faith-based healthcare systems to provide good and quality maternal and child health services. The objectives primarily of this workshop is one, to improve access to medicines used in maternal and child health, and secondly, to build the capacity, the knowledge of healthcare workers in the management of maternal and child health conditions.
He said the involvement of faith-based health systems is important because more than
Connaught Hospital, the main referral hospital in the country, the reason its environment should be kept in a very serene and clean manner. The hospital, which is situated at the bank offshore, is now being used as a mining and dumping site. Residents around the area have been complaining, but no action has been taken. Our own Umubakar visited the area that has now been turned to a dump site, and she now reports.
Been dumped, the back of the Connaught Hospital has rapidly been transformed to a garbage dumping site. This is the back of the Connaught Hospital, the oldest and probably the biggest hospital in the center of Freetown. The condition of this institution has since been a concern not only for residents of Kube, but many people, based on the fact that a hospital is a place where people seek medical attention. But with the present state of affairs, it can hardly be called one. The present state of this building is surrounded by garbage at the back of the hospital. The human waste, the stretch that permeates its windows, attracting patients, hearing is indeed difficult to comprehend. Ironically, food crops are grown on the massive waste, such as maize and groundnut, and water from the drainage coming from the refuse is entering into the compounds of residents at the back of the hospital. Mabinti Kamara is a resident of Kube. She spoke about her experience during the rains.
We moved in 7 months ago, but this retaining wall is really causing a serious challenge for us, especially the water coming down from the drains during the rain, and it is coming directly into the water well that we use for domestic purpose.
Ibrahim Kamara says the presence of the retaining wall is not only contributing but also contaminating the water.
This wall is not also disturbing the water from the drainage, but even when it rains, the water does not have access, thereby causing flood for us in this compound.
This state of affairs cannot continue, and the authorities concerned must address the issue if the purpose of which the Connaught Hospital is established must come to pass. SLBC News, Umubakar reporting.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry has noted with grave concern the indiscriminate rise in prices of basic essential commodities in trade. The rise in prices, according to a release from the Ministry of Trade, has seriously impacted consumers at both wholesale and retail, as well as other business sectors, thus impacting the economy. The Trade Ministry reassures the public that steps are being taken in addressing this situation. The release adds that the ministry encourages the public, particularly the business community, to support the ministry and the government's efforts to make available essential commodities at affordable prices in trade. The Ministry of Trade will continue to monitor the situation and do all in its mandate to ameliorate the trend, and warns those who take undue advantage of the situation that they will face the full penalties of the law. Access to better health service delivery for border towns has been a challenge over the years, though efforts by the health sector and its development partners. According to inhabitants in these border towns, this has being responsible for transmission of infectious diseases from neighboring countries like Guinea. Ibrahim Samira reports.
Coupled with the long distance to access some of these PHUs in border towns and porous borders were highlighted by community people as some of the reasons for the lack of access to better health service by indigents in these border towns. PHUs in Karine and Cambia districts have been serving the communities, but accessing them have been very difficult. According to indigents, they have to walk miles to access a PHU. Speaking to SLBC, pregnant women and health officers said before the intervention of the Mano River Union with support from CARE, accessing better health facilities was a challenge. They said Mano River Union has helped to rehabilitate some of the PHUs, conducted trainings on epidemic control and reinforcement of health services, covering topics in infections control and prevention with the aim to promote WASH practices. The project, according to them, also provides support to their PHUs, pregnant women and lactating mothers, and intensifies public health education targeting inhabitants from Guinea and Sierra Leone.
As far as IPC concerned, we are targeting health workers and the community people as well as the community health workers. Because for now we've trained the community health workers on their food package in order to minimize the transmission of infection at community level. So for this training, we thought it fit that involving the community health worker will improve on the health status of the community.
We started with sanitation and hygiene. From sanitation and hygiene, we mobilize people, sensitize them on how they can take care of their surroundings, how they can take care of themselves. Then moreover, we thought it fit that IPC should also be included in this program.
According to the program officer, Mano River Union, Alpha Omar Jallo, the move is to strengthen the health systems along border communities and improve on WASH practices. Residents called on government and development partners to give more support to their PHUs, rehabilitate roads linking border communities, and more importantly, strengthen border security and surveillance.
Supporters of the twin disaster have expressed appreciation to the president and his government in making sure their dignity is restored. They highlighted multiple amenities that are absent in their new homes. Meanwhile, 22 new families are to benefit from affordable homes built to relocate slum dwellers. Rose Konima Stevens reports.
Over 900 people died in last year's twin disaster, many displaced after a heavy and sustained downpour of torrential rain. After several months of trying to repatriate residents from the affected communities by the previous government, the elected government is determined to evacuate survivors before the rains are heavy. These are some of the survivors from the twin disasters. They thanked the government for its prompt intervention in repatriating them to their new homes, but however said they are dissatisfied with what was earlier promised them. These are some of the survivors from the twin disaster. They thanked the government for its prompt intervention in repatriating them to their new homes, but however said they are dissatisfied with what was earlier promised them. They therefore called on government and other humanitarian organizations to assist them with some basic social amenities at Mile 6 to enable them adapt to their community.
We appreciate the efforts of the government for repatriating us to Mile 6, but we are pleading that they provide us with pipe-borne water, health, and other basic social amenities to suit human standards.
Meanwhile, Home Leon has constructed affordable homes for 22 families at the Destiny Village in Newton. The aim is to provide not only homes for the slum dwellers, but also to build communities impact the lives of vulnerable people and their families living in the urban slums, thereby focusing on community development. Country Director Home Leon Joe Boxall spoke more on the issue of how beneficiaries were selected due to their vulnerability by a group called Federation, and noted that they will also provide employment for a family member from each of the 22 families to pay for the homes without knowing it.
And the main problem we get is this lease, mortgage, how do people pay for their own houses and make it sustainable? So Home Leon is a real effort to bring the price of the house down but still get a solid brick built house with electricity, education, all of the things that Andrew just said, into a house that's around the $10,000 mark. And that means that it's still subsidised housing, but they can pay a lease like a rental amount, and then become a homeowner between 7 and 20 years. So that's the goal.
Some beneficiaries expressed appreciation to Home Leon for providing them with these facilities and promised to work harder so that other slum dwellers could benefit same. SLBC News, Rosconima Stevens.
The Sierra Leone Social Aid Volunteers has constructed boreholes for Kamayama and Pentagon. As part of the package, the organization also built distribution facilities for the households. Safe drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene were priorities for the August 14th mudslide victims. Yvette Jasco reports.
Adequate drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene are all essential for decent living and human health. One resident, Fatmata Musa, at Kamayama told SLBC that before the August 14 mudslide disaster, access to safe drinking water was a major challenge for them at Pentagon and Kamayama communities.
Almost 70 years. I don't dare. 2 o'clock hour now be the for
I have lived in the Kamayama community for over 17 years. It was a forest and access to pure water was difficult. I normally wake up at 2 a.m. to fetch water from nearby sources. Though it rains now, many of us here fetch water from the borehole facility due to the safe measures put in place by the Sierra Leone Social Aid volunteers. We've used to fetch water from the nearby stream, which is not safe or clean. Even to access the location is difficult.
Residents at Kamayama and Pentagon appreciated the support, which they described as the beginning to better community achievements. They call on government, DFID, Christian Aid and the Sierra Leone Social Aid volunteers to enhance the water supply system during the dry season, and a community health center, market space, and a school to better their lives.
We don't get markets. We don't get government school now. We don't get government hospital.
A community member, Edna Amara, was also concerned that Kamayama and its environs are without government-supported schools. As a plan to sustain the water facility, she said they normally pay 1,000 leones for 5 jerrycans, except for schools, mosques, and churches that are enjoying free service. She said the community uses the money to upkeep the facility for the benefit of the community. Project Community Liaison Officer Mohamed Poto Kamara said the August 14 mudslide disaster affected the stream, which led the executive director to seek for help from Christian Aid to provide water and safe environment for them. The chairlady of the Pentagon community, Mariama Kuruma, noted that the water facility supplies other communities like Kondi Farm and Ja Kingdom.
It's now time for our business update, and for that, let's join Willimaina Boku.
welcome to Business Update with me, Wilma Nabuku. From the business desk, a team of senior World Bank officials has concluded a one-week economic assessment visit to Sierra Leone. The team was here for a follow-up mission aimed at agreeing on a revised program arrangement. Lucien Genda reports.
According to a release issued at the end of the visit, the World Bank team and government officials reached a common ground on key areas where additional progress will be needed. Some of these areas, the release adds, include a plan for financing the 2018-2019 national budget, increasing accountability, transparency, and oversight of ministries, departments, and agencies, and advancing the legislative reform agenda in the areas of banking, public financial management, and revenue administration. The World Bank mission returns to Freetown in September if progress in these areas continues as anticipated. Business News, Lucien Ganda, Freetown.
The central bank has in a release issued over weekend says there has been sharp decline and depreciation of the exchange rate over the years, which it also says applies to all commodity exporting countries, including Sierra Leone. Here's a report by Lucien Genda.
The country's exchange rate was highly challenged to the extent that the rate in 2015 and 2016 was about 24 to 25% depreciation. Thus, the release adds has a pass-through effect on prices, with the fear of floating. Bank of Sierra Leone thought that because it has some reserve buffer, the bank needed to intervene in the market. According to the release, the central bank came in bullish, wherein on a weekly basis, the bank was doing $500,000 on the weekly auction and increased it to $3 million per month. In June 2017, the bank excited the market as it created speculative drive in the market that it was reinforcing the depreciation. According to international standards, it takes 3 months of import cover, but for small economies, including Sierra Leone, with a high propensity, the central bank has to build a buffer about that. Business News, Lucien Ganda, Freetown.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has officially given the green light to the acceptance of China's currency, the yuan, into IMF's foreign exchange basket. Here's a report by Lucien Ganda.
According to the Reuters news agency, the move paves the way for the IMF to place the yuan at par with the US dollar. This is the latest in a series of global developments that threatens to eliminate the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Financial experts predict this announcement will trigger one of the profound transfers of wealth. The IMF holds supreme power and is one of the most secretive and powerful organizations in the world. It monitors the financial health of more than 185 countries. They establish global monetary rules and provides bailout assistance to bankrupt countries. The move by the IMF to give green light to the yuan into its foreign exchange basket will make the Chinese currency a viable global alternative to the US dollar. Business News, Lucien Ganda, Freetown.
Well, that's all coming to you from the business desk. I've been Wilma Nabuku till we meet for another edition of Business Update. We now go over for the rest of the news hour. Thanks for watching.
from business, we're now crossing over to entertainment. And for that, let's join our entertainment producer, Mohammed King Milan Bangura.
My real friends, they don't look to your money, they don't fund the French money.
Samuel Colombo is an Italian musician who was identified Sierra Leone as a second home. Samuel was born on the 7th of October 1985 in Milan, Italy. He studied law and communications. Samuel is the chief executive officer and founder of the West African Corporation with a head office in England. A good love for music way back as a child and was a member of an Italian band group called Real Friends. Presently, Samuel is in England, and from where he answers a few questions on his musical career.
At first, I want to say thank you to all of you. I want to say thank you to SLBC. I want to say hi to everybody, my great brothers and sisters in Sierra Leone. So who is Samuel Colombo? Samuel Colombo is just an international upcoming artist, singer and songwriter.
Colombo first came to Sierra Leone in 2014, and the first thing that attracted him is the richness of Sierra Leonean music. Fode, popularly known as DJ White Boy, who is also his manager, was opportune to be with him when he first arrived in the country.
Well, previously,
Well, I came to know Samuel Colombo in 2014. That was my first experience being with him. Yeah, I listened to a song by one of our hottest and biggest female artists, that's Zizi. At that time, you know, Fire, and Samuel Colombo was interested in it. Later, he told me he's a musician. I said, wow. For real? I said, I think you've met with the right person. Colombo fell in love with Sierra Leone and decided to embrace it as a second home. But why?
That's why right now I'm promoting myself, but even I'm trying to do my best to attract the right people and investors on this new area of the world that is Sierra Leone, full of beautiful places, great and talented people. I want they start to look at the talents in this particular area of the world, so I can attract investors for music and tourism as well.
So, Samuel Colombo,
Now, Colombo is planning to release an album, and most of his songs were recorded in Sierra Leone. Recently, he released a brand new music video titled Forever With Me, featuring a young talented singer M. Posh, and in the video clip featured Nadia, a one-time Miss Tourism. The video of the song showed sights from different parts of the country. On this, Colombo says,
in this particular video, I even want to show complicity in simplicity. I want to show there is possible a true love between a white man and a black woman, without false interest, a love not based on money.
With this video and more of his songs around the country, how will Sierra Leonean populace be able to hold a copy of his album, especially when he's away? Presently, Samuel is working very hard for his songs and videos to reach at the top. Very soon he'll be expected. I won't be able to say when now, but very soon he'll be expected. I'm expecting him from now to January.
My home government wants you to execute this job.
Patriot is a movie produced in America by Cameroonian writer and director Dexter Brains. Dexter was born in Cameroon and studied audio-visual graphics in Dubai before finally ended up in America. The movie Patriot was premiered on the 1st of July in Maryland, USA, and it's a true story about the Amazonians in Cameroon, and Dexter was a victim.
The movie, The Patriot, is not actually tied to some particular brand of movie. It is based on a true story. So it means if you can understand what real happenings are, then you understand what the Patriot is all about. We didn't just sit overnight and then frame something and then we're trying to put it on a giant screen. No, it is what's happening as we speak right now. It's what's happening.
According to Dexter, the production of the movie was not an easy one, as the movie was shot in winter, but with the determination of his crew, the movie was successful. Dexter was impressed with the casting. At first, he was not sure of the type of talent that would be part of the movie.
And the worst side of our own case is that we actually shot in winter, in the heart of winter, you know. So there were some days where we were actually shooting in the snow. But one of the most difficult situations that we faced was time management and putting the people together. Basically because we had our casts, they were not just around. We have casts.
Many thanks to entertainment producer Mohammed King Milan Bangura for putting that together. Now to end, these are the main points again. ACC has granted bail to former Vice President Victor Bokarifo and former Mines Minister Minkailu Mansaye. Former President Ernest Bai Kurmas described allegations of corruption levied against him in the transition report as untrue. And President Bio has commissioned the Infectious Disease Prevention and Control Center Sierra Leone at the 34 Military Hospital. Well, that's it for this hour's news. Broadcast live on the SLBC in Freetown. On behalf of my news editor Ibrahim Mansai, I am Anne-Marie Gigbai. For more information about our programs, do send us your messages or comments to SLBC here broadcasting out in Freetown. Thanks for watching and good evening.